And we're live. Here. Here. One to consider is setting a better American. We just put a C on the end of AM. Yeah. Any other addition to our agenda? Next up are amendments. Yeah. Publish.
So we've worked on this for a while. Ways to really spend the money where we can see immediate impact, but severe impact on the board that we run. There's some limited amount left from other projects and so came up with 6 programs for farming. And all the slides there. Daniel, we had put a slideshow together, then we do that staff.
Yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah.
I'll let you.
Yeah. This is like.
I'll flip through briefly. So, ultimately, I'll touch on the purpose. Like, the goal here is to basically create some quick to put on the ground programs that we could allocate funding from TSPLOS go into this. In order to do that, we want to make sure that these are initiatives that are kind of supported by Mayor and Commission. Sidewalk gap programs, let me get to it. Bike lane gap programs, ADA improvements, pilot projects, complete streets implementation, and grant matching funds. So, some of these, I will say, so this is a really great photo that we had from one of our walk audits on Tallahassee Road. And if you drive out there right now, it now has a multi-use path there. I don't know if y'all have gotten a chance to get out on Tallahassee Road, but there's now a multi-use path, and technically a piece of it's missing because they're still working on it, but it's exciting. So yeah, this would basically identify, we do some data collection to identify all of the gaps in the county. Ideally, some sort of automated software. There's a few different vendors who have stuff for that, and we'll go through the proper RFP or RFQ process to get that. And this will allow us to identify all of the gaps, come up with criteria, prioritize them. So our goal here would be to do 4 gaps per year over the course of 5 years. So we could just kind of start working through that list and using TSPLOS money to fill those gaps in. Bike lane gaps are a little different. You may notice the bike lane end signs all over town. That's where we would like to have it not. And a lot of times these are in place because our 3-lane policy allows us to do some sort of road diet, or if there is room, let's say we have 16-foot wide lanes, which I found one road recently has 20-foot lanes, Commerce Drive or Boulevard. But anyways, yeah, if there's room, we can squeeze in some bike lanes as long as it's safe. That's what was done in the past. And then when you come up, if you go forward, there's kind of turn lane there.
And just that solid jump forwards that Chris will be talking about later. When we did the safety at UVA, these two items, the sidewalk gaps and bike, are the two most mentioned. Students.
Yeah, so it really, you know, we're not saying how we're gonna do it. I think ultimately we want to identify the gaps and prioritize them, and then we can come up with a way to figure out the methods. Is it increasing right of way? Is it, you know, determining whether a turn lane is still warranted? That's to be determined. This is kind of just big broad strokes right now. ADA improvements, pretty self-explanatory. A lot of poles in the way. There's a lot of push buttons that aren't accessible. There are some new rules that are out now called PROAG. Don't know what it stands for. Pedestrian something. It's an accessibility guidelines. And so what it is they've been working on it for like 20 years. But the goal with PROAG is to make our right of way. Right now, ADA really only applies to buildings and getting from a parking space to inside of a building, and PROAG actually extends that into the right of way. So we do have accessibility mandates now that we have to meet across the country. And so this will help us get a little bit of a head start in that by at least having some funding to be able to start implementing those accessibility improvements. Pilot projects. This is more of the small pilot projects. So like, here's an example of one that probably costs, you know, $10,000. It's maybe some paint, maybe some flex posts. Might not even be 10,000, but you know, these types of bulb outs can really increase the visibility, slow down people who are turning, just make it easier for people to not die. Complete streets implementation, you know, this can be done in a lot of different ways. Ultimately, we're not, even though I'm showing a picture of Prince Avenue, this is a good example of what was done recently, but really with the funding that we're looking at doing 1 to 2 smaller projects per year. So these are more in those kind of locally owned roads that are accessible and easy to kind of get the stuff down, you know, not something that's going to require a really like a whole capital project thing like Prince Avenue. And then grant matching funds, just setting some money aside for future grants as needed. So yeah, the rest is left for tier 1 capital projects. And I think the last thing I want to touch on is just, here's the budget for all of our programs. It took a bit of work to consolidate it to this way, but essentially we've got our project funds. This is for SPLOST, T-SPLOST, and you know, all the T-SPLOST plus the SPLOST from 2011. So this is our funds that were approved. There's expensed and encumbered, then there's designated. So you can see under designated, we've got Barber Street, Jefferson River Road, Riverbend Road, Cherokee Road. Like those are all taken care of and designated. Out of that, there are still some remaining funds left in these programs totaling about 11.6 million. And then for our proposed programs, we were basically putting out there 3.48 million based on the goals of each of these programs that were highlighted up there of just wanting to, you know, meet a certain number of projects per year. We checked with staff and found out what was good for them, and that's kind of where that number came from. And then that leaves for future tier 1 capital projects all of the remaining funds, 8.12. You'll also notice that all 3.48 is under T-SPLOST 2023. That's just because that project description specifically highlights examples of these programs of what that fund can be used for. So we didn't want to seem like we were misusing T-SPLOST previous T-SPLOST funds and stuff like that. So we won't necessarily have that 3.5 million ready to hit right away, but we'll be able to start using it as the revenue is generated. So are there any questions? Yes.
Public art?
That is part of the construction funds within these programs. So that will actually go to like with Barber and Jefferson and Riverbend, Cherokee, those are all delineated as construction. Something like sidewalk apps, initially, I believe this, as part of this whole process, will go towards ACAC. Athens Cultural Fair Commission. They will review the spending to see.
Just a kind of analogous to the public art, access road, way and all that.
In the it's art from the SPLOST buckets, yes.
It just was kind of odd to see construction.
Oh, public art, yeah. Yeah, that's just part of the mandate with our SPLOST is 1% has to go towards public art. So, yeah.
How are you deciding how? Like, for example, downtown, they're activated to turn on.
Mhm.
Right, you just go up and walk. I mean, this is all over the city. There's a lot of customers. Always simple little things like that. I don't know, the large question, wondering the logic behind those pedestrian countdown timers, some of which are actually authoritative. How the electric was that seems so a minute or two after it counts down, then you could still cross, and then that's a dangerous situation. Yeah, because a lot of know that
Maybe it's so complicated. It's just about something more. You didn't know. Yeah, it's long, it's all big.
Yep. The short answer is traffic engineering. ProAg has some stuff that outlines new requirements. They all have to be audible now. So all new push buttons will be audible, which is good. There's a lot of stuff that goes into why things are certain ways in certain places. For instance, up here at Lumpkin and Doherty, when you push that, it actually gives you a leading pedestrian interval. So it keeps everyone red light and then it allows pedestrians to go. So there's not really a way to do leading pedestrian interval and automated just walk at the same time. In some cases, the leading pedestrian interval is actually more safe than just always allowing pedestrians to walk. And also if there's a turn lane where cars are being directed to turn left, that really shouldn't interfere. It should still be a red hand to stop you from going. And so sometimes that'll be why you see that difference. In terms of the length, it's based on the amount, the distance, and a certain number of seconds per foot. Without getting into crazy details. So, yeah. I would say if there are any spots, and specifically, it's good to just email me locations with concerns, and I usually send those to the right people. So.
Any other questions about the small projects program? Do y'all understand like what? So at this point, the staff is going to begin developing small, we're going to be data collecting, developing out programs. Will come before the mayor. Point. Come before the staff will present it. It's us. On the
And just clarification, we shouldn't call it small projects. It's bike and pedestrian improvements programs. The reason for that is projects have a very, like, project concept is a very specific definition within T-SPLOST, and they requested that, you know, we don't use the term projects or sub-projects to talk about things like that because it can cause a lot of confusion. So.
So he was busy over the next week, so as these
Good job.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so then ultimately too, that will be Bruce and you will be. The board will.
Yeah, and to be clear with that, when we look at a lot of T-SPLOST projects have user groups. And for these, project number 6, project 11, 12, and 25 from the various SPLOST and T-SPLOST, y'all are the user group for these 4. So that's why, and I think I just want to explicitly say that because there's sometimes some confusion. Mayor and Commission is delineated. I think actually maybe 2023 might not have been designated yet, but it's usually the Athens and Motion Commission for this. So normally you see, like with Atlanta Highway, there's an Atlanta Highway user group. With this, we don't have a user group because you are the user group. So yeah. Any other questions on this?
I said this already, but the road with $0
Uh-huh. What's the status? What?
Why does Cherokee Road have all 0?
That's what Mayor and Commission, that's what that body voted to do when they approved it. They approved the concept and asked us to move into preliminary engineering, but not construction. So we have completed our 85% plans, and we have not been directed to build that project. So what it means is in T-SPLOST 2023, some funds could be directed from there to build it. I think one of the questions that has kind of continually come up relating to that is where does this fall in the prioritization? And with the new plan prioritization, the pedestrian portion of Cherokee Road was a tier 1, the bike portion was a tier 2. With the new prioritization, is that going to change? How high of a priority is it? Ultimately, I think we could apply for some grant money to build this out, but we've just kind of been going as directed. So it's kind of currently on the shelf.
Get the impression. They don't want to miss it. They want you guys to be prepared to take action.
We put this in, we added it in with the 0 intentionally because we just want to make sure that it's clear that this was started and it has not gotten any further action. So we've done what is just kind of our due diligence of there's no money designated for this. Yeah. So we'll see what, I mean, I'm expecting a conversation to come up similar to your question. And the commission would say, oh, well, what steps are needed? Because if it's just putting something on the agenda and they request us to do that, that's kind of what we've been waiting for, I believe. All right.
I am on the agenda for tabling events for customers. On a very fun day. It's in a class. Several hundred. few people. In and out about 40 minutes. I'll leave people a little something weird. So we can feel we're all very focused. People give them out, everyone except for
I'm just gonna mention, apparently, our microphone has been set
what's that?
incorrectly. So can you hear us better now, Scott?
Scott?
Can mostly just hear Daniel.
Someone else say something.
Can you hear us?
Hi, Scott.
That's better.
Feels on the best go round.
Oh, somebody's hard at work. I love this.
That's a nice looking shot you got there.
That's great.
Yeah. New shot.
Yeah, so for your minutes, it might be a little tricky to hear what we've been saying. Sorry, everyone online.
They
Right now.
are, but they're not open. Yeah, they're not
We're up
open.
to date.
Cool. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I
That's
just
fine.
realized that.
I mean, Scott, we need Scott. So anyway, Scott was at UGA, Bike and Pedestrian Day, and he talked to hundreds of students, just like all the rest of us did. And yeah, it was a good day. I appreciate everyone who was there to man the table and, or woman the table, or whatever the table. And
And on the table.
and yeah, it was a great day. And I felt like we really connected with a lot of students. They're very concerned about their safety, and I was really glad because, I want them all to live to graduate.
Yes. Art, real quick, that was your first tabling event with us. Did you have any impressions?
Well, I was impressed by the infrastructure that you've created, that it was a nice looking table and a lot of stuff. It was really, I really appreciated that. It was fun. And I guess the biggest thing that I came away concerned about are all of the people on their scooters who weren't wearing helmets, and many of them didn't have lights and stuff. So tried to always say, be careful out there.
Wear a helmet.
Yeah, wear a helmet.
And we did pass out some lights and.
Yeah, we had
Like
some
Athens.
swag to hand out. We had lots of lights. We had glow in the dark wristbands, or not glow in the dark, reflective wristbands, and yeah, so it was a fun day. I think the kids enjoyed meeting with us.
And I think this is a great audience to reach because students tend to be really close to their destination. So if we can get the students feeling safe and feel safe enough to use those other modes of transportation, that's less traffic for us, less traffic through town for people who would never get on a bike or a scooter or anything, right? So it benefits us all.
But one final word is that we did ask if anybody had to jot down a few little comments. And
Oh,
some
yes.
Students did, and the biggest things we heard were, what we call sidewalk gaps, but they said, the sidewalks are missing, or there's not enough street lighting, or, for the few that use the bike lanes, the bike lanes kind of end and it doesn't feel safe once you get to the end of the bike lane, could ride more if I could take my bicycle across here and there. So yeah, it was helpful to get that feedback.
Yeah, and lighting consistently comes up.
Yeah, so this is relevant to the bike and pedestrian programs.
Yes. And then another opportunity for us to tables coming up. Porch Fest, Sunday, October 15th. It's the 15th, right? And are we officially signed up to table at that?
Julie, you were gonna check on that, weren't you?
I don't know if we had talked about that. We talked about looking into a location, but I don't know that we talked about registering.
I'm going out of town, but if I think about it, I can, when we leave out of here tonight, I'll contact Tommy. And
Okay,
just-
and I can do it.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind contacting Tommy and just saying we'd like to come and we'd like to know where we can put our table. That would be great. And, this thing's gonna be a long day. I don't know that we have to have a table out there for the whole day. I think we should probably just stick to daylight hours.
Yeah, what are you thinking? Like, I had the event down as noon to 8, but we would probably be there like 11 to 5 or 6ish. That's how we work.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't think any later than that, really.
So if it's helpful, I can create a similar sign-up sheet like I did last time.
Yeah, okay.
So Lauren.
Yeah, and I'll bring all the stuff and then, should be able to pick it all up too. We do have a party to go to that evening. I should be able to get it all and then,
Yeah, or we can shove it in a car.
hi, Daniel.
Is there a need to store our tabling stuff?
Yes.
Well, right now it lives in my garage.
Yeah.
Does-
We're not paying rent in
But-
3
I have a really big
Okay.
garage now that's also an engine bay at our new offices.
All right, I've been waiting for you to make that announcement.
Yeah, we also have some interior, but we're still in the first week of being there. I still haven't moved any furniture and it's just been cleaned. So, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I'm gonna be gone till Sunday, but,
From what day till when?
tomorrow morning and
Okay.
all Sunday.
Is there any tabling before Sunday?
Nope.
Cool.
I was just gonna say, I can't move it before then.
Next week is perfect.
All right then, make a date.
Just let me know when and I can make sure I'm
Okay,
there.
yeah, that's great, yeah. I'll be, as much as I love having all that AIM stuff there looking at me every time I go to the car,
Constantly reminded of that, thinking of us.
I think it really belongs with you, Daniel.
And I think what we'll probably do is, we'll just have to make sure a staff person's there when someone needs to pick it up.
Okay.
I don't think I can give out like our key code access.
All right, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And Teresa, thank you for storing that for so long. Do we have any other fall tabling or pretty good?
I think that's basically it, I mean, but when is that school event? Is that in the spring?
CCSD Family Day?
Oh, Family Day? Or are you talking about the green schools?
Yeah, yeah, that was in the spring.
The green schools event was last weekend.
Oh, no, no.
We missed it, but the family day.
The school family day. Yeah, I mean, and if anybody thinks, sees something that they think might be appropriate, yeah. Like if another REI opens. We can go there.
I'll throw out that we do a vehicle safety check
Right.
every November. Scott graciously participates. Scott, we're gonna be reaching out to you soon. We're trying to settle on a date right now. It's typically before Thanksgiving, to try to capture the students before they leave for the holiday. The parking lot we normally have it in is gonna be a staging area for some construction. And so I think we're gonna move it to another location on campus, but it might be an opportunity even to pass out information. It's not necessarily a tabling event because people typically remain in their vehicles, or if they bring a bicycle, they go to a location where Scott is in our little area. But we do give away bags and different things like that. So if there's any information or pamphlets or brochures we want to contribute, we could maybe include them in there. Because it's started out as vehicle kind of safety inspection, and now we've kind of expanded it with bicycles too.
Right.
Sometimes we have the police or the environment down there handing out different things, just trying to educate students on safety.
Yeah, that's very good.
I'll keep you guys up to date. We can really talk about it even at the next meeting. It's going to be in November. Just not positive of the date or location yet, but it could be a very low key tabling where if you want to give me information that I can pass along.
Oh, Daniel, we need to order some more of those wristbands, but I'll send you those.
Simulating, yeah.
So sign up sheet for Porch Fest coming soon and more information about the before Thanksgiving event. Right, next item on the agenda, I'm gonna pull up the screen just briefly so you guys can see the dates. And also I can pull the website. So Georgia Bike Walk Lives Summit is in Athens this year. So I wanted to go ahead and start having a conversation about this. It is over 3 days, November 16th to the 18th. So that's Thursday, like, I think starting around noon Thursday, Friday, and then to noon on Saturday. So I don't think we need a decision right now, but maybe over the next month, you know, check your calendars and think about your interest level that you would like to attend. Because I think it's okay if people would want to do just one day or, you know.
Depends on the cost that y'all want to pay.
Yeah.
Technically, it's past the early registration, but we might still be able to get, I had a similar thing. We just sent the full list to John Devine. I think it would be helpful. If you'd like to go and have it come out of AIM budget, everyone raise your hand. And then if you're a tentative, we can discuss that. I think we'll get, that way I can just have a list.
Okay,
And
so would it be helpful then? Because we don't allocate money anymore, right? But it would be helpful to have.
I just need to know how many to buy.
Okay,
Membership.
but so you don't need a blanket approval for us to send people, okay?
Is there a program? Because I'm looking on the website and there doesn't appear to be like a specific schedule or.
I think that's in the works. It's still kind of far.
They're
out.
still working on the schedule, but it's like, so
What is it? Yeah, that was my question.
Great question.
I like to bike and walk and live. Perfect. Perfect.
Has anyone been to a previous one that can speak to it?
Oh, hey, I haven't been either.
Okay, it's been years for me. Basically, it's a statewide conference Georgia Bikes puts on. Scott, have you been before?
Yes.
Many times.
Okay, can you give like a little Twitter version of it?
Well, this is your statewide bicycle conference. There's a national version. Presumably states all over the country do this. Georgia Bikes is organizing the event, basically bringing advocates, people who run bicycle programs from all over the state here to listen to workshops, go on some bike rides, and hang out like we do every year. Most of the time in the last few years, it's been either hybrid or virtual. This is one that's definitely in person. So we're excited to be back in Athens.
I could literally walk or ride or live to this.
Yeah, so, you know, and ultimately the difference between a one-day pass from the earlier prices, the early bird registration, it's like $50 for one day or $70 for all three. So, you know, I'm gonna mostly be getting the full pass for our staff, but we have about 10 or 12 staff that have confirmed that they'd like to go.
That's awesome.
So, and you know, it's a rare opportunity to not have to work in, you know, lodging and travel and
Right.
that. So, if you know you're out of the country now, that's fine. But November, I think 16th, 17th, 18th, is that right?
Yeah.
Maybe just check your schedule, or if you want to just give me a tentative, like, if you know you can make it, raise your hand.
Friday, just Friday.
2, 3, 4.
I want to see
Sure.
the program and then I'll decide.
All right, and then
Just the one.
for one, okay.
Yeah, just the Friday.
I'm just gonna. So 3 full registrations. 1 day. And then tentatively. Anyone else tentatively? Can't make it?
I think I'm out of town.
Want to see the
Not sure.
program.
The Teresa's tentative.
So,
And yeah,
Julie, are you in? All right, so we got, you're not sure, so 2, say 2 tentative? You're not out right now, you're just
You talking about me or Blaine?
blank.
Into, no, maybe one day, potentially one day. I don't even know if you all.
Because, yeah, I think we can work with that. And, you know, I think there was an option to be a sponsor of the event. So we could probably wrap these registrations into a sponsorship level. If there's an amount that y'all would be willing to sponsor, which we can discuss that at next meeting.
Okay.
I just wanted to go ahead and get these numbers generally figured out. I don't think we're locked in or anything, but it might be helpful to look at. I think they go all the way from 250 up to 10,000 or something.
We don't have.
Yeah.
That's up.
Cool.
Any other questions about the Georgia Bike Walk Live Summit? Right. Next is our added item to the agenda, people who are killed while walking and rolling. We're a little bit behind, but I think we'll just have shorter staff updates. Daniel certainly been filling us in. So yeah, I will, I'll mention that the way this has come up before is we had talked in the past about how to, what kind of attention we want to give when people are killed in crashes. And we've been sharing posts, right, Teresa, when they have when the information has been made available to us. I think we've avoided editorializing and just really stuck to what our role is. Yeah, do you have any other comments about that, Teresa?
I mean, basically, it's just saying, that we are all about Vision Zero, that we don't want this to happen again, that we're trying to, build these events out of roadways. But regarding this plea deal that just happened, where the person who killed the cyclist got probation and a minor fine. I'd like, if everyone's okay with it, I'd like to put that on our Facebook page, and just say, we don't understand how this sentence was reached, or something like that, or just put it out there and say,
Maybe
law enforcement needs to be doing, not law enforcement, but perhaps we could get stronger verdicts in the future to deter and bring attention to people's driving. I mean, we don't know what went into getting that deal. We don't know.
That's the tricky part.
Yeah, that's what the question is. I don't know how did.
Maybe just say, how was this verdict reached? How was the sentence reached?
Not to suggest that it's a mitigating factor or anything, but the driver's license was indefinitely suspended as well.
Oh, the driver's license was suspended.
Indefinitely.
It just says indefinitely. I mean,
It could be a week, it could be 3 years, we don't know. But
Anyway, it's a pretty light sentence for a loss of life.
backing up a little bit, not to detract from that, but this is sort of my chaplain hat is, in terms of putting on Facebook, but if, in terms of activism, if somebody's killed walking or riding, host vigil, like the day of the death or whenever it is, just whoever can gather, just gather for just some 15, 20 minutes just to host a vigil. This happened in our community. I'd be willing to
I
participate.
mean, somebody would have to mark those events and then do a little coordinating, and I'm not that person.
Right.
But I mean, sure.
It's just keeping our, we get the alerts usually and, any incident that's too frequent, but, they're not every day, obviously, but, we get it, the incident, and then sort of coordinate and I can
One death is
pay
too.
more attention to that.
one thought, and I don't know, hate this idea or not, but maybe instead of calling into doubt the decisions of the district attorney and the courts and all that bit, maybe on the Facebook page, focus more on saying, we hate that this kind of tragedy occurs, and that's why your Athens in Motion Commission exists to to help our community, avoid this sort of thing. And, we hope that, this will make you aware of the efforts that we're doing on your behalf. So.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we're doing that to some extent. In mentioning like the Vision Zero plan, coordinator.
Just kind of think of it as more of a little bit of a high road.
Right.
Well, following up on this comment about a vigil.
Yeah, and we're kind of going into different, but yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering if some, like, you see on the highways, like so many cars, people killed in traffic accidents this month or this year and on the highways or something. And if there was a sign that we could have that would be, this many pedestrians and bicyclists killed in Athens-Clarke County this year, and then have that in a prominent place where we could then hold a vigil there every time this kind of thing happens at some date that works after that, just to have the public recognize this is a thing.
Maybe it's effective at that location also.
Yeah, at that location, and
When I was thinking at that location, just because it would call attention to whoever's passing by at that time.
I like the vigil idea, but if the problem we've got is that somebody was hit in a place where it's not necessarily as safe as we like it to be to ride a bike, we don't want people gathering there en masse.
Well, it doesn't have to be at the site.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I like the idea of the vigil, just not necessarily at the site of the accident, which I thought is what I heard some.
That's where I'd like it.
I was thinking downtown, like on Broad Street, just some big sign that is saying.
Yeah, College Plaza.
Yeah, there's some research that shows, like, and I know you didn't necessarily say billboard, but like billboards that are negatively framed, that are like, this many people have died on the street since this date, and it's like a digital one. There's ones I've seen where it's kind of like a counter of people who have died on this road. They found that after they implemented those billboards, the crashes went up because of the increased anxiety that drivers are potentially having. One thing I'll mention, so I did pull up the resolution, and it says Athens in Motion Commission be established to advise the mayor and commission on the development, implementation, modification of an Athens in Motion plan for a safe and connected network of bicycle and pedestrian facilities throughout Athens-Clarke County, with consideration for access to transit, employment centers, major public services, amenities, and recommendations of transportation studies. So just not necessarily voting today to write the letter, but maybe just to, like, I can check with the manager's office to see, like, if y'all give me like a goal of what you're wanting to do, like to just highlight something and, maybe not specifically call out for the, why did this happen in this case, but it could just be highlighting the importance of, or it could be highlighting the frequency of crashes, like, that are kind of not necessarily considered homicides. There's national data on it, and I'm trying to find the words I'm trying to say, but we could likely get data for, in the last 5 years, here's the bike and pedestrian crashes, and here's what has happened since then, in terms of like drivers and, let's say incarceration, or I don't know what the word is, but
Okay.
like, is that data that y'all are wanting to see? Because we know in this particular case, but like, what about the other ones? There's plenty where it is considered on the fault of the pedestrian and bicyclist, and that is usually, it's not like a court. There's not a court case, but there's the instance of East Broad Street, the student who was killed crossing over there, and the alleged driver was not indicted. There's this one, like we could probably figure out who to talk to get data. And then maybe, is there a way that we could highlight that as kind of an overarching, here's a pattern, and here's like how that pattern applies to the rest of the country, and we're not experts in this, but we just hope that this is something that is prioritized in the way that our district attorney.
Okay, so something that we can do is ask you or staff to, if it's possible, to look into all the fatalities that have happened over a period of time.
I'll say we can do that.
Okay, and outcomes, and maybe we can categorize those and maybe start going, maybe we start, there's still stuff that's pending from this year, right?
Outcomes in terms of how they're prosecuted.
Like what is the result as?
This was from 2021, I think,
I guess, yeah.
if I remember.
It's 2022.
Was it 22? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is
Tallahassee
this
one.
case that just happened in 2022. So any of the crashes that likely happened after that have not been.
Yeah, it was James Jones of Vaughn Road.
Yeah, I think the question is more like, I don't want you guys to get in hot water for putting out a letter that isn't really one of your directives, right? Like, y'all, as a commission, you're here to advise the safe and connected network. Safe, obviously. And this stuff is mentioned in the plan. And so it could just be highlighting a section in the plan that is relevant to this, you know, and like your priorities are on advising for building that safe network. And, you know, here are the examples as to why that's important. But, you know, you encourage DA's office or, you know, all of the people involved to kind of think about the vulnerable road users as a primary, the people who, you know, lost their life, really consider that as they approach these situations. I don't know. I don't know if that's like a letter that how it would be framed, or if they would appreciate it or not.
Yeah. This is like bigger than any one issue that we're talking about, or any one person dying.
Here's.
It gets personal for me in some ways, not to, I mean, just to sort of, I've turned left on Tallahassee, from Tallahassee on the Mitchell Bridge. And somebody, before I turned left, decided that they didn't want to wait at that light to turn into that gas station. So they pulled out into this as I'm coming this way. And I slam on my brakes and I'm over, you know, over my handlebars. You know, I mean, like that, you know, it's just, and so you say you don't necessarily want to see more people, but how do people change behavior? You know, what does it take? You go, and we often idolize some of these other cultures and societies. You know, you go to Canada, you don't even have to look before you walk out in the street. I mean, cars are just stopping, you know, like I see that at UGA sometimes when I drive on campus there, that kids just have their headphones on and looking at their phones as they step out to crosswalks, you know. I'm like, that's crazy here. You can do that in Canada, but maybe not. But anyways, yeah, I heard what you said towards the beginning of that conversation, like how to call attention to this, because we want our roadways to be safe, and a little slap on the wrist is it.
Yeah, I mean, really, we want this kind of thing to not even not be a possibility. That's the point of this zero, right? Is for this man to still be alive, even with this kid on the road, this 20-year-old who's not making good decisions, allegedly not making good decisions. I don't know. Well, he's innocent, so it doesn't matter anymore. I can say, you know. I think that, Daniel, that I am curious about, like, what are the outcomes of some of this, because I don't know.
Yeah, send an email, maybe like phrase it so that I could, because I can probably, we can get all of the crash data,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We can filter out to just look at fatalities. We can also filter out any vehicle only fatalities. If you're only wanting to look at like bike and pedestrian, then we can give me like bike and pedestrian fatalities, between these years, last 5 years or something. And I can at least get Cheryl to put together, kind of a summary of the crash reports that are associated with those. And it might be a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, request. I don't know. Haven't really ever ventured into that realm of like, do we just send an email to DA's office and say we would like to see what the resolutions are for these cases?
Yeah.
Because even once we have like a list of the, like if you, I put it in a table in my mind, so you have all the crash reports, and crash numbers listed, then it's like, which ones were considered at fault by the vulnerable road user versus the driver, and then of the ones that were the driver's fault, which ones, what was the resolution?
Yeah, and Daniel, I question why we would not want to know about injuries as well. Pedestrian and bicyclist related injuries, not just fatalities. I don't think we want to limit it there. However, the more and more I've been thinking about this, I think that's interesting information. It would be useful to know, how many over the years, how many per years, how it's trending. And I think that from there, it would be appropriate for each of us as citizens to vote for district attorneys and judges according to our conscience, but I'm just not sure how much that's in our scope.
Right. I think maybe what I see is like, we have the trends and we have more knowledge, and knowledge is power, and we can use that in our discussions or as we're interacting with people or elected officials.
Yeah, I mean, knowing the information and being able to use it to argue for certain projects and the like there. Now that would be 100% within scope. Writing a letter complaining about how the courts behaved on our letterhead, I'm feeling more and more uncomfortable with.
Okay.
And from an action standpoint and what we can affect, I mean, we can affect safety, preventative. The, post accident, I think is going to be a lot more of a challenge for us,
Yeah, right.
if not impossible.
Wow. So here's what I propose. Daniel, yes, I'm gonna send an email to Daniel Sherrill asking like if we can trying to figure out what these outcomes are for fatalities and injuries. We don't have as much of a record on near misses. And then maybe what I'll add is, we have Sherrill's our Vision Zero coordinator, and she probably has some thoughts about this on what we could do or what would be most useful. I just really want to put this in the back pocket because as we are coming forth to our elected officials with these programs, this is another real life picture we can paint, like how many Athenians or visitors from out of town are dying. I think it's pretty powerful. I mean, we talk a lot about guns and homicides and stuff, but you're more likely to die on the road in Athens-Clarke County than you are by any gun. Guns are scary, but that's what it is. What do you think about that, Daniel? That be appropriate?
Yeah.
Are y'all okay with that for now?
Yeah, giving those data, yeah.
Yeah, I do really like this idea of a vigil.
Mhm.
Something.
Yeah, it's
very
probably long
unusual.
overdue. That just occurred to me. Thinking that would be.
Double check and see if there's like a national bike and pedestrian victims day. I will say, like, you know, if you're talking about doing a vigil on every single day that someone died within a certain amount of time, that like, that might end up being a lot of them.
What's our number, do you think, in our municipality for fatalities like that?
In the last,
Like in a 12 months?
in the last year or?
Yeah, just a 12-month period.
Oh,
What do you think?
yeah, there's like 3, but
Easy.
there might be 4, but like in the last, let me pull up the data real quick and I'll let you know how many we've had in the last 13 years. You're about to say something, Julie?
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, surely there's like an awareness week or something where we could kind of hold events to recognize, you know, those who have lost their lives because they've been hit and killed. And I mean, that way too, yeah, I feel like it.
That could be part of it, you know, but for something, as the chaplain in me, like we show up when there's the death, you know, like that's what we do. Like there can be the other things, like there's a Remembrance Day service too, but like when somebody dies, we show up. So that's kind of that's the idea.
I do think that's a really great idea.
Go on the site where it's dead. That's just what we did.
Scott. The white bikes. Was that Bike Athens or was that affiliated with Bike Athens? Who's doing those?
That's not affiliated with anyone. That's just something that happens all over the country when people want to mourn the loss of somebody who was hit by a car. There's no organizing that. You can't. I think the one out Olympic where Ashley was hit, I think somebody maintains that one. But you know, sometimes you see them, sometimes it's been a long time since someone's even done anything to them, put flowers or whatever. It's not something we generally promote. You'd see them all over town.
Yeah, I've seen them also with their shoes.
Yeah.
They'll like mount the shoes onto a telephone pole or something nearby, and it's usually, you'll see like crosses on the side of the road where victims' families have, you know, especially on the interstate.
Right.
But I've seen, it's kind of that, there's not like a movement.
Coordinated response. Okay. Yeah. Let's keep this conversation going. I think we don't have to have all the answers now, but it's most important that we just talk about it and treat it as an issue. Like it is. That's appropriate for us. So thank you for putting this on the agenda, Craig.
Thanks for suggesting.
All right, it's 5:18.
I was just gonna say, I think based on just a quick look at the data, 30 pedestrian fatalities and 5 bicycle fatalities since 2013.
Wow.
That's the
Wow.
initial.
Yeah, moment of silence. Very sobering. All right, staff updates. Daniel, you are 3 staff members in.
Oh,
I would say you can move committee org report backs and have that be just like 10 minutes. So I can give you up to, how about we'll say 20 minutes, but you have 25.
right.
What do you want to share first?
I'll start with the one that's always the most well put together. Miller.
God, he's not here.
He had a meeting, they're working on some grants.
Great.
And share screen. All right, here's a little PDF. Let's see, I'm gonna read kind of slowly because I think he added in some updates that don't really need to be shared, but It's a lot to read, so I was gonna skim it before I speak. So the main thing, basically, Todd said, right now, everything's pretty quiet. The Carter's Creek Greenway is really the only project going on, and the contractor's still plugging away at grading and retaining wall installation. So, yeah, at the construction meeting 3 weeks ago, the contractor was pretty confident he would start pouring the concrete trail before the end of the month. So we got about four, how many days are in this month? 4 or 5 days.
Yes.
One of the two. If it hasn't already started, it should happen pretty soon. They're also very confident they'll have the project completed on time, which is around the beginning of February. So this is the segment. Right here is the Circle K on Barnett Shoals Road. This is the existing kind of trail that goes up, what's the name, Carriage Lane. And so this section would continue along the river down here. There's a little loop over here, and then it comes up, and there's going to be a new parking lot trailhead for the trail in this location. And they're also building a section of it on road. So that would leave just one more portion kind of in the right of way to get to that main multi-use path up there. So new sidewalk gap or multi-use path gap. That's the main one being built. Firefly Trail 3 is still moving forward with easement acquisition. The goal there is to have the project out for bid in early 2024. Usually, I think they say about 2 years for construction. So I don't know what the official thoughts are on that, but I talked to SPA's office recently and they're chipping away at it. So the rest of the projects are pretty far out and early in the design process, so he'll bring those to us once they're ready for us. So that's kind of where we're at. You can see some pretty pictures of a lot of Georgia clay. This will be a really nice scenic rolling hills photo, throw some meadows in there, flowers, it'll be great.
Nice.
All right.
Is any of this on the shared drive that we can get? I'd love to just stare at it.
Yeah.
Never gotten these from Todd. I can talk to him about that. This is the first time that well, I guess there's one other time. So he usually makes a little PDF. Oh wait, there's a second page. What is it? There's visual. So I can send this one, but yeah, I could talk to him about sharing. If he has them still, I'm not sure. We're government, so we keep everything forever. If not, the previous year's staff updates with previous meetings, but it's like
Exactly the same. I'm embarrassed not to know the particulars, but there may well be some information out on the Greenway webpages regarding those developments as well.
All right. As far
Not stretching.
Y'all should probably do that.
Go with Scott.
Yeah.
if we stretch long enough, I don't have to give any more updates.
Yeah. Some down dog, some answer pose. Some splits. Come on, you gotta stretch. You wanna be a good cyclist. Okay, yeah. You wanna do Sherelle stuff?
Yeah.
And Sherelle sent an update via email and I included that and I think that she also actually went through and included this in the agenda. I may have included it twice.
Well,
You want me to pull it up?
yes,
Okay,
I been here somewhere.
I got it.
Yeah, so Reconnecting Communities is our latest grant. We made it all the way to the good old Pete Buttigieg's desk. the secretary. We made it to the secretary's desk, this last year for this planning grant. I believe it's for, I think it's almost $1 million, if it's not $1 million, but, this would cover basically all of the preliminary engineering and planning that goes into these projects. It would get us kind of a good stable foundation implementation grant. We've gotten a bunch of support letters. I believe she told me today that it is completely written. So she's finished it since this and started uploading the documents. So
Okay, does she still need help or need a second set of eyes on it?
she got them. Were you able to take a look at it or?
Our timing didn't quite match.
That's right.
On the weekend and she didn't get her part till.
I'm looking at it and there are a couple of changes that I think really need to be made. Some phrasing that I think could be taken the wrong way.
Okay, well, definitely get that to her.
Yep.
ASAP. I don't think she submitted it yet, so.
No, she knows I'm looking at it.
Okay, good.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Lexington Road safety screening. So with the 2023 corridor funding for Lexington Road, one of the things that we've discussed is rather than just doing a continuation of projects, we really wanted to because they added in the scope of safety improvements on the corridor. So with that $8 million, we worked with Pond to do essentially a road safety audit. They did a bunch of analytics for the crashes and we spent about 4 or 5 hours out there last week. It was hot, got a little red on my neck. So, as one does down in Georgia. And yeah, it was really great. We got to see a lot of the stuff on the ground, come up with some recommendations. Pond is basically taking that data that was collected, I think it was maybe 100 comments or so, and processing it and bringing some recommendations forward. It'll include multi-use paths and where they would be most impactful. PHBs, pedestrian hybrid beacons, that is a crossing tool that essentially it's installing a traffic light for pedestrian crossing. So it's not at a road intersection, it's at a high frequency crossing. So we would need to do studies for that. I believe there's some ideas for divided medians in some cases. And the scope really starts up at, we started at Johnston Drive, which is where the end of the GDOT project is. And we went all the way down to Southeast Clarke Park. So we had 2 teams, we divided it in half, split it. And that was a helpful thing. So, yeah, Johnson Drive is right up there, just near the theater. Going all the way down to, I think, Whit Davis, if not the entrance to Southeast Clarke Park. Southeast Clarke. There it is. So, yeah, we'll let you know what the findings were. Then could you pull that document back up?
Yes.
Safe Streets for All grant, we have finally gotten the RFP posted, so there will be October 3rd is the mandatory, I think it's mandatory, she didn't write it, but basically October 3rd, we'll have a bunch of the firms come and meet with us to hear more about the project and ask questions. So that process is underway. I know the RFQ process that we're going through right now for Raise has been, we're going on 13 months, but this shouldn't be as long. RFQ is a little more involved than an RFP, and we had to go through GDOT, and it's just been really complicated. But related to the Raise project, so I'll start with this and then I'll go into additional updates for Raise. So Sherelle has been working on coordinating the public engagement that's about to begin. And that survey will be open until October 25th. So we're looking for y'all to share that on social media. What was that last sentence that she had? Okay, yeah. So that's already been announced. So,
There's a newsflash.
the other aspects, that's not what I meant to do.
Yeah, you can stop sharing if you're trying to share.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share it. I still have not been able to fully process and filter this down into something feasible, but you know, here we are. So, the other North Avenue stuff, we've got the RFQ underway. And we're still working on the grant agreement, and we're also meeting with GDOT about the schedule. So all that's very technical and convoluted. So the wiki map, I still need to finalize the comments from everyone. I haven't gotten a chance to put all that together. There's our programs, Walk Live Summit, Walk Live Summit. Already touched on North Avenue, Riverbend Road, and I met with the designer for Riverbend Road like yesterday. I believe they're also working on, yeah, Arcadis is doing Cherokee Road as well. So I met with them about some of the comments. They're finalizing the 85% comments. Jefferson River Road, that's TY Lynn that was working on that. They're not on call with us anymore, so I don't really have an update, but I think that it's in progress. Barber Street, I believe we are gonna have, yeah, so Jacobs will be managing this project. So in the same way they do all the Greenway projects and stuff, they have a whole like team of project managers in the SPLOST office. We have one or I think a total of 3 staff that could technically do it, but some of those are vacant and partially filled. So that's why we get a little bit of a backlog on our projects. So we just, with all of the failed culverts and the emergency repairs that have been needed, it has knocked progress on some of our other projects back. So I discussed it with Ronnie and he agreed, and he went ahead and we're gonna have Jacobs working on that. I believe the Prince Avenue meeting is tomorrow, and they're working on some permanent barrier options. Once the user group has seen those, we'll be able to share that over. If you're interested to see that, there's just, it kind of talks about at grade cycle track versus like in the road cycle track and various levels of protection, whether it's poured in place concrete or modular, anchored concrete. You know, it talks about stormwater and all of the other fun things that go with those types of improvements. So it's really looking at, here's different ways of making this permanent.
And you can kick this can down the road, but any updates on stateside?
Yes, they are not doing any new, they're not doing changes to their 2018 road safety audit. So they will, the concept will stay as is, as it was, you know, in the last couple of years. I don't have the latest. They're caught right now in between different on-call consultants. So I think if I remember correctly, that the next, they didn't want to delay the project anymore. They're already, you know, a few years back. So we should hear something the next year about the consultant finalizing the design.
Okay.
So.
Right.
Lexington Road sidewalks are underway. We're going through our permitting, getting going on, and that's the sidewalks on the south side of Lexington from Johnson Drive to Gaines School Road, and it fills in every single gap. So we'll have one continuous sidewalk. It adds in bus shelters at every location where there's currently a bus stop, I believe, and just overall improvements and narrowing down some curb cuts that are extra wide, you know, bring those turn radiuses down. We can't remove curb cuts unless it's like a real like explicit crash risk. I think basically I've been told that we can't remove curb cuts if they've been granted. We can talk to resident or business owners though and see if they'd be willing to limit the number of curb cuts. But Lexington Road is already a limited access highway, so apparently it's kind of hard to get new curb cuts, and that makes it unlikely that anyone with an existing curb cut would want to get rid of it. So we especially after walking along the corridor, we got a good eye on all of the existing conditions. I believe, Atlanta Highway, they're still finalizing the plans for Timothy Ridge Road. We'll get the bigger update. I'd like to talk about bike racks if we have time.
Just one question on the list above. Do you know what the status of lights are on the Riverbend Road multi-use path?
Like pedestrian lights?
Yeah.
We don't have any sort of budget for pedestrian scale lighting. There's the current minimum standard for our projects is every intersection and sharp turns would have vehicular scale lighting, streetlights. There's a certain distance, like on longer straightaways. And then if it's like a high crash area, I believe that's another reason why we would put in streetlights. There's no budget line item for pedestrian scale lights. You see them on campus usually because they have budget for that.
Is that what you're talking about, Art, like staff?
Yeah. It's just that it's just totally dark. There's no light at all out there. And there are a lot of people walking, so
Most like people connected to university.
it would be great. It would be great.
Road.
Yeah.
It's all apartments, there's a golf course,
Right.
campus transit facilities out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there was a way, I'd be happy to coordinate with you, Blaine, on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring
absolutely.
forth the lighting.
I don't know if you want, if there's anything I can do, but just reach out and I'd be happy to.
I made a note about it. So,
Great. Thank you, Blaine.
Earlier this.
Of course, yeah, I know that. Having the conversation.
Right.
Having the conversation.
No, I love that. That's great. Earlier this summer, we bought 20 bike racks with our funds to get started on a bike rack subsidy program. This would kind of, it could be built in different ways. I kind of wrote down all of the options and I underscored options because we haven't had these conversations with these departments. So I don't want it to seem like we're automatically just saying, yeah, y'all will do this work. But it could be anywhere from, supplementing damaged or missing or just lack of bike racks in downtown through, basically saying, hey, here's the bike rack. Central Services, who's in charge of installing all those things, could go and install them at locations that we highlight. It could be in our parks and trail systems if there's areas that don't have bike racks and they don't have the budget, like we could supplement some of those, adding in bike racks at those locations. We don't currently have any bike racks at bus stops. There are bike racks on the front of all of the buses. But, if you're one to you want to like park your bike there, get on the bus and then hop back on your bike when you get home, you don't have that option. there are, I'll do one correction, actually. I think the Park and Ride has some bike lockers as well as bike racks at the Park and Ride. But I don't know that it's currently active with all the construction that's going on. There's ideas, maybe coordinating with EGA if there's locations on campus. You know, there's Spin, the bike share. Maybe these could be bike share locations and these racks could go towards, you know, physical stations for that. Or we could do it through private partnerships on private property. We'd need an MOU. We'd probably need an MOU with any other outside entities as well. I think CCSD is also missing from this list, but maybe on school property, that would need an MOU. These are the inverted U bike racks, so it can handle 2 bikes per bike rack. So we're not looking to put in like, you know, enough parking for 30 people, but you know, especially if I think, you know, it could be really cool to start with something like Athens and their new location where we could put an MOU together with them where we say, we'll provide the bike racks, you are taking on the ownership and maintenance and future liability and responsibility for these, as well as the installation. And so we would just be providing the bike racks to the businesses and then they could essentially install them. And I think with that, we would want to include the APBP bike parking guide, that's Association of Pedestrian and Bike Professionals. There's a whole thing on where bike parking should be, how it's oriented. You might have noticed around town, sometimes they'll literally put it like right against the building where there's no way you can really park bike there.
It's pretty much everywhere I park my bike.
Yeah.
Right.
There's actually guidelines for that. And I would like to eventually get them into our city code as requirements, but in the meantime, we have it as a resource and people have, we did get it updated so people ask us for the resource and we can provide it. So that's been helpful. But
you know, what about turning this into a public relations campaign and actually targeting areas that where infrastructure has been recently improved and approach some key businesses that might be amenable to this, make some signs saying, hey, have you considered bicycling, and then install the rack and advertise the successes. That might, I would think that some businesses would be very open to that sort of thing. But
And new construction requires businesses to have a bike rack to install it.
you're talking about like in areas of new bike lanes.
yeah. Some new bike lane project that's been completed and
Target certain areas.
I try to identify businesses that might want to really support and promote it.
Yeah, so the next step in this will be to go through, I believe, to take this to Projects and Policy Committee. So that, I mean, that's a good idea. We can discuss that. We have the bike racks. I think if there's any funds to go towards like that kind of thing, they'd need to go through, you know, that could come through the commission as a whole after that discussion to kind of talk about how that can be done. We do have, I guess, $12,000 to go towards stuff in our work plan, and so should probably talk about the work plan. If y'all have a ETA on that, or like when the last one was. I have the 2022. I don't see one for 2023.
As it was mentioned in our annual report. But at this point, we probably need to work on our next work plan.
Yeah. So the crosswalk policy revision, the last thing.
Before you go on to that,
Okay.
the putting those at the transit bus stops, do you have any data for other towns that have put bike racks at transit stops? Because in my mind, I would think that would be the last place in the world that I would want to lock my bike up, because it's the first place that people have plenty of time to saw the lock off.
He ain't gonna be back for a while.
He ain't coming back for a while. There's nobody walking right by me, and it just seems like a thief's paradise, but I don't know. I haven't seen the statistics whether, because obviously it makes sense. Many people, myself included, like for the bus, I just put my bike on the bus.
All I know is that during the bike friendly community application process, that was a question. How many of your bus stops have bike parking?
Okay.
So I was like, huh. And then this was a question too, like, do you offer a bike rack subsidy program? We had to say no, but once we get this underway, we can say yes. So, and this is more of a pilot look at it, but yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think in terms of priorities, maybe it gets prioritized lower in terms of like meeting standard and like providing something that's available to someone. Like it might be that there's certain kinds of bikes that aren't really able to be put on the buses. So if you have like an adaptive cycle or a cargo bike or an e-bike that's really heavy and you can't lift it, I know the bus driver can't help you get it on there. So there's some circumstances where it might, your only option would be to either bike the rest of the way in a dangerous roadway or put it at or just drive, you know.
So this is going to policy and projects, so if you have feelings about it or want to contribute, like,
Yeah,
let's get on the agenda for that committee for further discussion.
that's a good point though, you know.
Yeah, so, thank you, Daniel. I think that's all we have time for. So Daniel and I are working to get some.
One thing, crosswalk policy is gonna be on
Yes,
upcoming work session, I believe in November. Yeah, it's coming up.
yeah, so you all will see some version of this crosswalk policy at our October 24th meeting from Policy and Project.
That's it from me.
Well, Daniel and I are working to get some version of this update to you all ahead of these meetings, so you can look at it and see what things you specifically would like for Daniel to go into more detail on or have some kind of a presentation. And we can certainly talk about other things there, but just so we're prioritizing what you all most care about, because Daniel and Sherelle, they do so much in their day-to-day job. It's hard to get through it all. So we'll be working on that. And then next, other committees and commissions or corridor committees. Anything from Atlanta Highway, Lexington, or Prince Avenue that we haven't already discussed?
Well, Atlanta Highway, real briefly, the Timothy Mitchell Bridge Road project will be presented at the October 10th session.
Okay. All right, yeah, so we'll be at that one, Randy, so we'll get to hear that. Right, and Prince Avenue meeting is tomorrow. I am looking for a replacement to serve on this committee if anyone is interested. It's currently remote.
The Prince Avenue? So technically, I found out the reason that you haven't been getting all of the invites is the mayor and commission have to appoint members to it, and they haven't done that. So
Okay.
I haven't ever encountered this with the other user groups though. Like in the past with Lexington, we just said Randy is the new representative and that wasn't questioned, but for this one, for some reason it was. So maybe
Once you, when you're running it.
maybe you request that through the.
You're on for life.
Yeah, so what needs to
I think
happen?
it needs to go through the SPOS office.
So I have to ask the SPOS office to.
I've asked them.
Commission.
I was not answered. So I've sent the email. I just wasn't answered.
So should I not attend the meeting?
I would say it's a public meeting,
Definitely attend the meeting.
but I just don't, I don't know. It was weird. I'll see if I can get more information.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on it, but apparently now that Mark is no longer on this commission, there's just a vacant user group member on that user group.
But he was the Athens Emotion person.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, because I literally haven't had this issue. Like, I mean, you've been on the Atlanta Highway the whole time. But when Jake left, Randy was swapped out.
Yeah.
Well, I was,
I was kind of under the impression that the user group was made up of an appointee from AIMC, but it might not actually have been written that way, and it might have just been that the mayor and commission appointed a user group and included a member.
Yeah, okay. Well, happy to follow whatever policies and procedures there are. Don't want to put any more work on people than we have to.
Did you get the invite for tomorrow?
I think it's on my calendar. I guess not. It's not on my, okay, we'll talk about this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna forward the series to you and see.
Okay, thank you. So we may not be looking for a replacement because I may not be on this.
But either way, you're saying you can't do those meetings?
No, I can. I was planning on being there. I'm just eventually looking. I will continue to do them.
Is anyone interested in that?
I will continue to serve.
Or, okay,
Or unofficially, if appointed.
I didn't mean it, like, if you needed to say you don't have time in your schedule for it, then like, we can still have that conversation. I just, because if we go through all of the steps and then you do get appointed and then they turn around and then you're not able to do it, then we have to go through it all again.
Okay, yeah, let's continue conversation via email, see what we learn. Thank you. All right, our other committees, I want to come back to ad hoc plan revision and go to education and communications. So that's Teresa and Julie.
Yes, so the big announcement is that Julie has agreed to become the new chair of the Education and Communications Committee.
Wonderful.
And I think that's going to be a great change because she is young and she knows a whole lot more about how to reach people and get them engaged. So, but I'm not going away, so, yeah. But, we had a good meeting. Let's see. Have anything in particular? No, we did talk a lot about, the wiki map and then the story map. So we get the two maps. The wiki map is the one that's a data collection map that's going to let us update the Athens in Motion plan. There's a story map out there, which basically is a pictorial vision, version, I should say, of the Athens in Motion plan. But the data sets are not 100% correct, so we can't just put it on our webpage.
Okay.
So, but Daniel has promised to find those data sets, and you made any progress on that for that story map?
No.
Couldn't tell by the look.
It's over.
But yeah, and then also Sherelle had given us a bunch of graphics that she got from a Vision Zero workshop, which some of the messages are great, but the graphics are and so we're looking at maybe getting a Canva license. And if we could get a Canva license for let's see, the team pricing, which would allow 6 people, is a monthly flat rate of $29.99, or just the single Canva is $14.99 a month or $119.99 a year. Which, I don't know if it's kosher to have just a single account and then people share that account. You have to worry about people erasing your work. Nobody would do that intentionally, but mistakes happen. So anyway, so is that something that we want to spend a little AIM funds on? Canva license?
What is your recommendation? Like the 5 or 6 seats? That way it's not.
Well, let's see, you're either $14.99 a month or $29.99 a month. I guess I would say just do one.
I will say, like, I think I mentioned it to Sherelle and she was like, oh, that would be great if I had a pro membership to Canva, because she's used Canva a lot as well.
Okay, so would we want to do the team then? Because we wouldn't want to take the risk of deleting anything that she's doing.
I feel like this might be a discussion that we don't have time.
Say what?
I don't feel like we might not have this time for this.
Okay, that's fine.
Can
We
you,
don't.
can you guys wait and can we talk about it more in our next meeting or like talk with Sherelle? And I kind of have feelings about staff accounts on this if it's for Athens in Motion.
Oh, I think we would split the cost.
Okay, so you'll talk a little bit more. Talk.
Yeah, I would assume that we pay for that out of our, I mean, technically, this is also staff, you know. The Athens in Motion funds are TPW funds, they're not Athens in Motion
Right.
funds.
Right.
So we could do a line item that basically just pulls from both. You know, if it's an invoice that we pay half of it with one account and the other. If we have it within our accounts to do multiple licenses and we could save one for y'all. Do you feel like you've used Canva before, the pro version? And you feel like it's definitely a useful tool that could help you do a lot?
Yeah, and I mean, if Cheryl's already looking into it, she wants one, I feel like it would be.
She wasn't looking into it. She was just like, oh, I'd love that.
You know, it's a matter of principle. I think that if more than one person wants to use this, we get a lot of value. I think we should get the T count because I don't think we should be in a position to try to get more than we pay for from a company that's offering these things.
Yeah, I mean, if
Open the door for some bad press.
Yeah, well, and I did my training on the computer cyber infrastructure, and they said, don't share your passwords. There you go.
Right. I mean, it's not a good practice, you know, but
Well, it's just not good policy either.
No.
These people are making money on a good product. This is how they make their livelihood, so.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
yeah, so that was, then we talked a little bit about the tabling for Porch Fest and I guess we didn't communicate effectively. So yes, so you'll follow up with Historic Athens and, you know, figure out the details about where we can set up our table and, you know, if we have to like fill any forms out or anything like that. Probably not, because he tends to not like a lot of red tape.
Yeah, I messaged him and I texted him. It seems like we're already gonna hopefully figure something out soon, so I'll let y'all know.
Yeah. So, and then we've scheduled another meeting of our committee for October 3rd, which is a Tuesday, and 4:30 p.m. Okay, anybody is interested in joining?
Tuesday, October 3rd, 4:30.
Since Teresa brought it up, the wiki maps, you had asked last time for us to play around with those. Could you give more definition? Can we just like make up stuff and put lorem ipsum type text in there? Or do you want us to, because I noticed some people are putting in, this really needs blah, blah, blah. And is it more of a stress test or just see if you like it or?
Test it out. You could make some stuff up if you want. I put test 1, test 2 on all of my things. If you make it up, I would put test 1 as a precursor and then.
Okay, so be very clear.
Yeah, just like, you know, in case it is real input, you know, I kind of like, I drew a
I
route
saw
that,
some people that put real input in it.
yeah. You know, we could go through and wipe all the data before it goes live. If we feel like the input that's in there currently is helpful to keep, we could leave that as well. Can we get, it doesn't need to be like an approving of funds, but I am curious if the Canva thing is something that I can say y'all are supportive of at least splitting a cost. Is there a way that we could do a vote on that? Just to fill the temperature? Or would you rather?
I would like that to be next meeting.
Okay, so I'll just hold off on any further discussion about Canva until I hear from y'all on that.
Did you send out information regarding the wiki maps?
Very possible. Did I send out information?
I think there was an
An ad hoc, in our ad hoc plan revision. Yeah, so it is 5:59, so I think we will go over. So if anyone does need to head out, I will totally understand that. I'm trying to keep us on track, but we have a lot to discuss. So going back to to the ad hoc plan revision committee. Daniel, did you get the results of the poll? Because we want to schedule our next meeting.
Yeah, if you go to the link that has the when to meet, it should show the results.
Okay. So we will, those of you who are in that committee, if you will stay after if you have time, we'll look at that. Okay. And then anything else from policy and projects, Randy?
We pretty much covered everything that we're looking at currently. Our next meeting is October 17th at 4 p.m. To attend and discuss any of those projects we're working on.
UGA.
Just briefly, appreciate the feedback from the bicycle safety. We can certainly pass that along. I know somebody mentioned scooters. They're becoming more and more prevalent on campus. We're seeing them all over the place, and there's honestly really no regulation right now. I mean, nobody's in charge of making sure that they're wearing helmets, or these are personal scooters. These are not something that,
right,
the university's endorsing, or the bike share program, which they also do have scooters, but
Okay.
not on campus, but they offer it.
Okay. Yeah. In general.
In general, yeah. So we're working, I think, a little bit with campus safety. I know last week there was some information requested and some video from our buses. All of our buses have cameras on all around them, inside and outside. And we capture a lot of near misses and things like that on campus, and they always flag them. All the bus drivers flag them whenever they see anything like that.
Mhm.
So that information was requested, or any feedback. So I know that was sent up. So it feels like a potentially growing issue on campus. And while it's great that maybe they're supplementing vehicles on campus, or maybe they're lessening the load on some of the buses, how many people are on them, it's not necessarily what we want to create. Or is it really solving a problem if we're creating another problem? So, but appreciate that information. And Ed, thank you too. Ed helped facilitate some of the light carts that we have on the Greenway in between the parking right lot and the campus. We used those for 2 of the football games this month. It worked out very well. Glad we had them. It's very dark.
Yes.
In that stretch, and we got positive feedback from some of the people parking out there. It's nice. It's paved. It's shaded. It's really easy walk. But the light carts were key, and we'll have them out there again next October 7th. The next home game has been announced for 7 o'clock. So if anybody wants to see it well lit, short piece, they'll be lit up probably from 8 or 9 o'clock to maybe midnight. Just that stretch when we have them on. So it worked out very well, and thank you, Ed, for helping to facilitate that.
Well, I threw it out to the Greenway Commission, and everybody understood the need and didn't, nobody saw any reason why that we shouldn't have. So yeah, shit.
So thank you.
All right, Ed, do you have anything else for the Greenway?
I'll reciprocate the plan. I appreciate the information on UGA parking and the E23 lot in particular. That was a useful understanding that it would be lightly enforced from late afternoon up and through 6 o'clock, and everybody did understand. When I say everybody, the Greenway Commission understood the desirability of having standardized parking hours across all lots and everything. So that made good sense. Regarding the E23 lot, and I'm wearing a couple of 3 hats here. The Audubon will be having a bird walk Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, rendezvousing at the E23 lot there on the North Oconee access road for some birding on the Greenway.
Yes.
The Greenway Commission was informed by Athens Leisure Services, and Daniel, feel free to chime in if you recall more of the details than I do. But a section of the Greenway starting at the very beginning at the Sandy Creek Nature Center down to the bridge over Sandy Creek itself is going to be closed for an extended period of time. I don't actually have when that's going to happen. But what's going on is that road is badly in need of paving. This is the lot that's entirely contained inside the Nature Center. And their goal was to also have some subsurface infrastructure installed at the same time. And consequently, it wasn't fiscally practical to try and leave part of the, half the road open while they pave one half and everything. So that whole section will just plain be closed for an extensive period of time while they're repaving.
Okay.
Stop at the bridge.
Yeah, from the bridge over Sandy Creek up to the end of the greenway there at the Allen House. And then on a lighter note, but kind of relevant to Athens in Motion, I was solicited by a citizen the other day for skateability on the greenway. And that was quite interesting. As it turns out, this person has been active in the Athens roller derby and is pretty serious about her skates.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned it to Rose West with Leisure Services, she indicated that she too was a skater. So, so that's what I have to report from the Greenway Commission.
And Rose is the new Nature Division Administrator. So, yeah, Alex was promoted to Assistant Director and he's been acting as liaison for the Greenway Commission. Rose is now the full-time liaison.
Great.
So, yeah. So any and all questions that we've been sending to Alex, we'll go to Rose now. I'll take care of doing that, just so y'all know. Yay, Rose.
Yay, Rose.
Thank you, Ed. Alan, do you have anything from T-SLOSS 2023 that we haven't covered?
Briefly, this past month, we had a 17-minute meeting, the quickest meeting, but the vote for that was there's the T-SLOSS 2023 pavement and bridge maintenance program. We voted to allocate $162,000 from that program to make sure that we could get $648,000 in grant funds for that. So we're getting a bunch, and that's for kind of analysis, feasibility and such for bridge work that needs to be done on, it's supposed to be 6 bridges, but they cut it down to 5, but the College Avenue, Mitchell Bridge, North Avenue, Macon Highway, Vine Street, and Whitehall Road, getting some feasibility and looking at that, but they were able to take the Macon Highway Bridge off because GDOT says they're gonna do something with that. And it may be around, close as I could get, 2029 or 2029 that they actually do that, which is
Great.
fast in GDOT time, I guess. Certainly needs it because there's no way to safely bike across that or walk across it.
Yeah. It's great. And that project was also a candidate on T-SLOSS 2017 and didn't make it. So happy GDOT's gonna step up. Anything else? Cool. Thank you, Alan. Anything I overlooked? Okay, we're gonna do a meeting. We're gonna talk about the ad hoc plan revision time after this. If anyone needs to go, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we'll go into our final round party of thought and do this because the mayor and commission do it. So I want to make sure everyone gets to say something in the meeting. So I'll start on this side of the table.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm really thinking about what you were saying about a vigil. I looked into it. There's a World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims. Happens in November, which I know is soon, but I really think that was a great suggestion and would be really cool to explore.
Nice. Is it the same day every November? Or?
Yeah, it's November 19th, which is a Sunday this year.
Good to know. Ed?
Totally self-serving. As my wife and I were jaywalking across Mellage Avenue today to go to Barrio for lunch, it occurred to me that there are no pedestrian crosswalks between Southview Parkway and 5 Points. So to cross the street legally, one has to go significantly out of one's way. And I would love to see one of those little lighted push button pedestrian crosswalks somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, it's not illegal to cross the road when there's not a crosswalk. This is something I've learned from our crosswalk policy.
There's no jaywalking.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, damn. I was getting away with something. I know it all the time too. I learned as an undergraduate, make eye contact.
But the desire for a protected median, definitely get that.
You have to yield the right of way, but you can cross where you wish.
Yeah.
There's certain circumstances, certain outfits that come. So you can't do that on the loop. Certain roads. Of certain, it's a very complicated law, but essentially, yeah, it's not illegal to cross outside of a crosswalk. But the responsibility is on the pedestrian to make sure they're not walking in front of a car that's
Right.
coming down on them quickly.
The onus shifts, yeah.
Yes. Responsibility if you are hit inside of a crosswalk shifts to the driver, I believe. But I have not actually reviewed it in depth. I've just been.
Well, I didn't want a review of laws. I just wanted to express the desire for a crosswalk.
With that, I will say, I feel like we've heard that location multiple times, and every time we've done a study, GDOT does not approve the cross, because that is that's GDOT highway
15, right?
So, yeah, there's been multiple times, I think 3 or 4 locations that get brought up that, so. If you wanna send the location to me, I'll forward it on to our traffic engineering team and get it on their list.
I'll do that.
Or, and then they'll let us know how many requests have gone through in that spot.
Randy, parting thought.
Since we're still, I'll continue the self-serving. In fact, with the completion of the Firefly Trail out to Winterville, Jesus, please, something. I know the challenge right now mostly is in Winterville. But even if we could just start the other end, that see some progress. I had a pretty good accident on Spring Valley. It left me knocked out laying in the road because of a dog coming out. Just as I left the Firefly Trail and started down the hill.
Yep.
So it'd be great to have a nice, safe path off the road.
Okay, my turn. Well, today I saw somebody crossing Atlanta Highway unsafely. And I saw a poor soul riding a bicycle, not you, Alan, on Timothy Road. And all I have to say is please be safe out there and don't be dumb.
I got your beat. I saw somebody crossing the Atlanta highway, not at a crosswalk, in a wheelchair. So,
Oh, my goodness.
blocking traffic.
I mean, this lady was a kid. She was just like walking randomly across the road and the traffic is coming at her. It was just
Terrifying.
She didn't even look like she was, out of it. She looked like she had her act together, sort of.
Assume if you can.
I guess related to the pedestrian and bicycle deaths that we discussed earlier, I think every little bit that we can do to just convince people that it's actually safe and fun to bike and to walk and to not be in your cars, that it's like it's just like building extra bike lanes. If we get more cars off of the road and make it safer and more pleasant, I think it becomes a self-propagating good thing at that point.
We need to have some bike gangs take over some of these.
Well, that was the initial approach, and I think that we've been dealing with the repercussions from that ever since.
They can backfire.
Yeah. Alan?
Well, to continue with the self-serving thing, since that's our theme for today, between now and our next meeting, I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks to go on vacation. And during that, I hope to get at least 500 miles in on my bike across about 6 different states. So if I don't make it next month to the meeting, you guys can hold a vigil for me.
Oh my God. No, that'd be fine.
It'll be on the 19th.
All right.
Oh, boy. Yeah, action is the antidote to despair. That's my parting thought. There.
I'm good.
Nothing else.
Noel, then Scott.
I rotated my desk 90 degrees at home and redid my little office space.
All right.
Night and day difference. Wild. That's what I'm most excited about right now.
And because of the action, the despair is gone.
Exactly.
All right, Scott, so you guys are putting on.
Nice.
Right.
Oh. All right, okay.
This is the last joyride that's gonna start from our old shop. We're gonna end here at the new shop. Authentics right there. Probably give you a little tour of what this is. Hope to see y'all there.
Cool.
Thank you, Scott. And congrats on the new space that you're working on and are not officially open
Yeah.
in case anyone's watching this.
I'll vote yes to adjourn. when you-
Okay,
I do have to go, sorry.
All right, thanks, Craig. All right, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, and please, if you are an ad hoc, over here. Everyone else can go.
Brief